That is.
Gut-wrenching reaction from the families of the victims of Monday's deadly rampage at the Washington Navy Yard. 12 people lost their lives that morning. 11 of them are pictured here. Among them was 73-year-old grandfather John Roger Johnson. His widow, surrounded by her family, gave this heartbreaking tribute.
My husband was a wonderful, wonderful man. He was always happy, always positive. Never had a bad word to say about anybody. Loved the world, loved life, loved his faith, and just proud to be an American. And it's more than I can tell you. I just am so shocked and stunned. We were going to retire soon, and he loved his job. He wanted to keep working because he just loved it. Loved all the people he worked with. Never met a stranger in his life, and just a very happy, positive, wonderful, loving human being, more so than anyone I've ever known in my life. And he's going to be greatly missed by a lot of people. He was a great father, a great grandfather, and just an awesome human being. And I loved him very much.
What a beautiful tribute that is from Judy Johnson, but it shouldn't have to happen. This woman should be spending the rest of her years with her husband, and we need to figure out why this keeps happening in this country. Leslie Marshall joins me now, radio talk show host, and David Webb is the host of The David Webb Show and is a co-founder of Tea Party 365, and both are Fox News contributors. I cannot listen to Judy without getting emotional, because she encapsulates how all of these families must be feeling right now. And we have to ask ourselves this question, because how many times has this happened just in the past couple of years, you know? And you got to look at the system, and every single time afterwards we say, oh, well, yes, there were many red flags. This person was clearly mentally ill. And yes, you know, we knew this about them and that about them, and he got his gun last weekend, and all of these issues, and everybody gets up in arms. But we're not getting anywhere. We're not making any forward progress, it doesn't feel like, Leslie.
I don't disagree with you there. And I know a lot of people, especially in our line of work, like to make this political. But mental illness is not political. I mean, it does not discriminate whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. But politicians have the power to do some things, not to cut funding to VA programs, not to cut funding to medical programs or to first responders. The issue with mental illness in our country is a multifaceted problem that needs a multifaceted solution. I believe it encompasses many areas: not allowing those with mental illness to have guns, having a transitional program for those who are in the military. They're trained to kill, they go overseas to kill, and then they come home and they say, welcome home, go on with your life. And so many of these people, perhaps this man, suffer from PTSD, and they don't want that stigma, that label put on them. So we definitely need to address it.
I understand what you're saying, but David, you know, I think in many ways mental illness has become politicized, and in this way. Have we not become so PC that we do not understand that there are categories of people, many people who do not deserve to be institutionalized, but some do? And if this man had been institutionalized, something that we, you know, seem to never do anymore in this country. In fact, Adam Lanza's mother, according to the reports after Newtown, wanted to institutionalize her son. She was worried that he would do something. But unless you have been convicted, you cannot be institutionalized. So what do we do about this, David?
There's a fine line, and I don't disagree that and I agree that we shouldn't politicize this issue, because it is not a political issue. But there is a fine line between systemic failures, Martha, and what we have when we have individual rights and privacy rights. Without that conviction, that's the protection of our legal system. But in light of the safety that's needed, I think we need to look at the system. When you look at Aaron Alexis, he had problems in the Navy. There was an attempt to discharge him with a general discharge, which would have given a red flag and maybe led to further treatment and further assessment. He had issues that were clearly along a violent strain, even in his private sector, even after the military in his reservist days. So we need to look at the systemic issues. We need to not cast a wider net. that says that if a police officer reports or if anybody reports someone, we suddenly gobble them up and put them in an institution. And in fact, when you look at the numbers,
of course not. But we're having this conversation again and again. And when I don't mean to cut you off, David, but we have the same conversation and we shake our heads and say, "Isn't it so sad?" And every time the first person who comes out says, "He was a normal guy. I knew him. No problem." And then invariably the hours tick by and people say, "Oh yes, we knew there was a problem."
But he wasn't
Clearly,
a normal guy
problem.
here. There were signs that were missed, just like
Yes.
signs that were ignored with Major Nidal Hassan and many others. And what I'm talking about here is not just putting everybody under the blanket, but fixing the system itself, that if there's a report that goes in, that report's taken up immediately and taken to someone to get him a further evaluation at the VA where he had gone and reported that he had trouble sleeping, and they asked him questions. The police reported it in, the base police reported it in Rhode Island, and it was missed. What I don't want us to do is turn this into a bigger problem, and it is a tragic problem. But only 698 people were killed last year in intentional violence in the workplace. It's according to
Judy
BLS.
Johnson. It's one too many for all these families. I'm sorry to jump in. We got to go, but we need to figure out where to draw that fine line that you talked about, David Webb, to keep other innocent people safe.
Absolutely.
When people realize that someone is a danger to society, there has to be a way. Leslie, David, thank you very much.
Sure, Martha.
All right.